changed ideas.
All right, how is everybody doing? Here we go. We're going to bring in our Facebook Live group. The Wild Bunch Facebook Live is here and with us. We're also on Spreaker. By the way, I always forget to tell you all. Let me turn this down. It looks like I'm blasting everybody. I always forget to tell you all, we're also on YouTube. So if you subscribe to our Spreaker apps, that broadcast will be posted on YouTube and several other places, as well as www.drshawngreener.com. That's www.drshawngreener.com. So we're about to send more Bibles out. It's exciting. I love how people are responding to that. Hello to Facebook, Adam Allen Demers, awesome dude. Robert L. Greer, good afternoon. Michael, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. It's awful fun to have a fun bunch of people. So we're going to jump right into this. This is going to be a little bit wild. A little bit wild. Rough and ready. Oh, by the way, happy birthday to Karen Varie Bertelli. Really wonderful lady. She is fighting. She's a fighter. She's very sick, but it's her birthday today, and we're super excited that she is here with us. She's an amazing lady. Also, special prayers to Suzanne and Pete Darnell. Very, very lovely people, and they listen all the time. Pete is fighting cancer and is going through treatments, and Suzanne is taking wonderful, beautiful care of him. Also, Emily Anzulis. You guys remember we were cheering for Emily Anzulis on the Titan, the show, The Rock. That guy, The Rock, has a big new show. It debuted at number 1, and Emily is the first female winner of the Titan. Yeah, awesome. So she'll be in the Grand Championships. Once all the different people compete, she will compete against the female winner of that. It's really incredible. A true gut check. Delightful people. And she is the granddaughter of our friend to our ministry, Linda Anzulis. Wonderful people. Before I get started, I do want to say we did have a death in my family. A great, great lady whom I adore. You can't know her and not adore her, but my Aunt Jean Reifenberg has passed away. We prayed for her last week, and she has gone on to her reward. And so we offer our deepest condolences. We'll be doing that funeral this week. She was something. There's just my mom's youngest sibling, the youngest sibling in my mother's large family, and my mother now is the only one left. Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that, brother. She's the only one left, and so our prayers now are for her and for the family. Great family. My cousin Dave, has long since been. He used to give me buck and bronco rides when I was a little kid, if you can believe that, up in Pop-Pop's yard. And I would say, let's do it again. He's not that much older than me, but he's, I just viewed him as, Dave, and he's just an awesome guy. Great, great guy. The whole family they're amazing people. So tough thing to lose somebody like her. And we pray for my Uncle Orv, that he will be sustained. We know Dave and the whole family will take great care of him. So people assume, let me just say what this is first. I probably ought to tell you what this is. Oh, let me see here. I forgot to turn chat on. Sorry, y'all. There we go. All right. Huh? Turn it up? All right, let's see here. Yes. There we go. Hopefully that's better. Susan, I hope you can hear me. We want to say hello to Susan in Texas. We're going to be without her for quite some time, and she's a real lifeblood to our group. Hello to everybody live here, too, by the way. You can be Facebook Live, but you can also be live and eating some delicious food. So hello, Joan. Good to see you. So this is a fun thing, by the way. We're broadcasting from Newark, Delaware, which is near a lot of things. You're welcome to come anytime. We'd love to have you. We meet at 5, and we have a meal. Everybody brings stuff. You don't have to, especially if you're a visitor. And then we get right after it around 5:30. All right. So what this is. And I'll go into a little bit deeper as we go, but everybody, I shouldn't say everybody, most people will say to me, I try to read the Bible, and the Bible is really, really, really difficult. Really difficult. It's hard to read. This is something I hear a lot. I try to read the Bible before I go to bed, and before I get too far along, I fall asleep. I fall asleep. I can't stay awake. There's a couple things there that I want to address first before we go into that, and it'll make sense to you. I promise you it will. A book you love, you will make time to read it. You will read it and bump into stuff. You know how people are walking and bump. We experienced that yesterday, I think it was. And there was this dude in front of us, and he was oblivious. He almost got hit by a car. Still oblivious. Never even looked up, never skipped a beat. He gets into the place, he's walking like this, and people are like, dude, I don't know what he was doing. I can't conjecture as to what he was doing, but whatever it was really had his full attention. Well, a book is like that. I don't know how many people read. Most of my stuff, I now read on this, but which is cool. I mean, it's really, really cool. But there is something neat about having a book in your hand, whether it's electronic or whether it's paper. If you're really into a book, you're reading a book that you really, really love. Gosh, I'll tell you, you just about can't put it down. There's a lot of writers like that out there nowadays. And there's some that have passed that really were those kind of writers. I find a writer now that I really like, you may think I'm a mushy dude, but Nicholas Sparks. I think Nicholas Sparks is a fantastic writer. He's a very intelligent guy, but he doesn't write above. His vernacular is not above. And he knows what audience he's writing to, and he writes so that you can easily read him. Vince Flynn, great writer. My goodness. We've lost a lot of great writers, haven't we, at a young age. So a book that you love, you just can't barely put down. You say, well, I'm not a reader. If I got to read it, I'm not a reader. Well, now, guess what they have? They have audiobooks. For just about every book, you can get an audiobook. It's really something. So I love to read. Problem is I took a bump to the head some years ago, and I got a brain injury, and it's very difficult for me to read now. Whereas I used to read in the top less than 1% of the world. It's true. It's not bragging if it's true. I could literally read two different books side by side, and you can testify. I mean, she thought I was messing with her. I could do this, and I could do it as soon as I started reading. I didn't know that other people couldn't. So I could put two different books side by side and read them well over 1,000 words per minute. I look at a page, turn the page. Look at a page, turn the page. I was so blessed. People say, well, how did you read over 2,000 books in a span of time, such a short span of time? Well, I did it because I could read a book in a few hours. I lost that when I was in the crash. So sadly, and I was able to just perceive and then take a test on it. The comprehension, it means nothing to read fast if you don't comprehend, 2-3 hours from there. And we did tests, and I've been tested, ironically, by the government and other things to, been tested for that. And so anyway, my point is this, is I remember I would come across a book or a group of books, a series of books, and I literally would be glued to it. Now, when I did my first PhD, laptops had just come out in force. You know what I mean? They were out, but they weren't. Remember they were like this thick. They're like this thick, big, heavy, like lead, right?
Big lap.
Yeah, you had a big lap for the laptop. You had to be sturdy. You had to be made a good stock. But I had, and the battery lasted about 15 seconds. I mean, they were horrible. But I had a laptop. I got a laptop, and that's how I rode my motorcycle and wrote and researched and did all the stuff that I did all over the country. But I was like, how could I, and this is the early days of heads-up display, right? Ironically, I have that in my car now. But I thought, man, if there was a way that I could blast that book up onto the windscreen while I was driving, no, don't do that. So now, leading to this, they have audiobooks. And I know a lot of people, my son listens to audiobooks. He listens to podcasts and audiobooks. And so I just think it's fantastic how technology has helped us to be able to take in this information. Reading used to be a really big deal. It really did. You used to have classes on reading. That was a big deal. Not such a big deal now. It's not pushed so much in schools. And you guys know spelling's not pushed at all. Handwriting's not pushed at all. My son Doyle, who is watching, he's like, "Ooh, handwriting and spelling, thank God." You know, but anyway, all that to say this: when you get a book that just captures your attention, it's easy to read, and you're fighting sleep. You don't want your eyes to drop. Why? Because the devil doesn't care if you read that book. In fact, the more time you're reading those books, the less time you're reading Scripture. So you pick up a Bible and you start to read. All of a sudden, you went to bed feeling great, you know, and 10 seconds later, you got drool all over yourself because you've fallen asleep. Well, there's a reason for that. There's several reasons for it. The first is the devil doesn't want you reading it. You got to accept that. That's just reality. The second reason is because you may not be reading a translation that is easy for you to take in, to assimilate into your mind. And because of that, that's why I'm researching another translation. I just brought on somebody into my social media that is, I'm not going to say her name, her husband and her are really world famous people, and they're part of this Bible translation for Messianic Jews. It's just really for everybody, but it's fantastic. And what I'm reading so far, I'm going to research who is in their translation team and why they went about it the way that they did is amazing. So, all that said to say this, you want to get a translation that is accurate, but that you can read. You got to be able to read it. If you're just fighting to read it, and you're like, I don't know what this word means. Now, I always say this: if you have that Bible and you're plugging away and you're forcing your way through to read it, keep a dictionary or a thesaurus nearby, or a thesaurus. Just keep it nearby and read it. You come up with a word, or if you're online, hit that word, highlight that word, and go research. What does that word mean? What does it mean? That makes it so great. It makes it so much better because it enriches your vocabulary and it enriches you personally to know those things. Now, I forget things. I'm the 51st dates guy. I forget things because my memory, my short-term memory, has been damaged. That part of my brain has been damaged. And so I will forget. I have to read instructions over and over. I use very complex cameras. I'm into photography. I have to continually study how to use the camera. It is very frustrating. It's extremely frustrating. But it does keep me fresh and excited. I'm like, oh, wow. You must have heard 100 times. Guess what my camera will do? It's just like, mm-hmm. And my son Doyle's like, mm-hmm, that's nice. One thing I haven't forgotten, though, my son tries to trip me up on this. Dad, remember you said you were going to give me the 5.7? That'll be at the funeral. Anyway. So anyway, people assume that a guy with a master's and a doctorate in theology is a stuffy religious nerd. That's me. I'm referring to me. Most people hear, Reverend Dr. Shawn Michael Greener, and they think, oh, that dude's stuffy. Well, you guys can testify. I'm not very stuffy. And I am a little bit of a nerd in some ways, which is okay. I hear being a nerd now is in style. I'm just a regular dude, but I'm a regular nerd. And I tend to reject ultra-academic religious rhetoric and Christian buzzwords. I just don't like them. I don't like them. I don't like the Christianese buzzwords and phrases. I don't like them because I think they're built to create a wall in between the theologian or the preacher and the audience. Intentionally so. And I reject that. I know religious theological, and when I say religious theological discourse, I'm talking about the real heavy stuff, the stuff that we talked about in seminary. I know it has a place, but real heady Christianese really should only be in academia. I really believe that. And for me, only academia. So my personal policy, now this is several of my professors I see are listening, and I love that they're listening. I'm honored. Yeah. No, they were amazing. I mean, my professors at Masters were really, really amazing people. Now, this book, let me just say this. This book that we're going to be working through, this is a book I wrote. It's about to be released to the public. It's an ebook. It'll be an interactive ebook. You'll be able to buy it. We were thinking for $9.99. And again, we have to do that. I wish I give so much stuff away that costs me and my family to produce. I can't give away. It's too much to give away. I have to recoup distribution costs and all that stuff. Anyhow, my professors are very intense people. you've heard from, several of you in here have heard from one of my professors, Dr. Moen. Very intense people, but they're regular people too. Dr. Fry and Dr. Frazier and several other professors that I was privileged to have, and now my good friends at Masters, they did real things, right? Dr. Fry was a Navy guy, and he's been a pastor for many, many years and traveling around doing what he does amazingly. And Dr. Frazier, he was a Marine, United States Marine, and he lived a little bit. He was a successful businessman, and now he holds multiple doctorates and is a fantastic teacher. Very hard teacher, but a very good one. All that said to say this, when I first kind of got into this, I wrote a book called Excellence Killed the Church, How Mediocrity is Destroying America. We did a book tour we thought was going to be a few weeks long, turned out to be months long, and all over the country. That book is available on Amazon if you'd like to buy that. Amazon and Barnes & Noble and all those other places. I don't know if it's actually in book form at the stores, but I doubt it. Probably just online. So when I did that, I started to do pastors' conferences and things like that. I got invited. I would give speeches at places, and they're like, who's this guy? And then I would speak. And then sometimes they would go, hey, let's have that guy talk here and talk there, do this, do that. And so I would, but my thing was, I just didn't like it. I didn't like how it felt. I felt I didn't belong there, really and truly. I didn't fit in with them. I was definitely a misfit. But I've developed this personal policy because of this. I no longer attend pastors' conferences unless I'm the keynote speaker. Now, that sounds very arrogant, doesn't it? Sounds very arrogant. And I know that it does, and I respect that it does. I get it. I get that it seems very arrogant. The fact of the matter of it is I just couldn't stand it. I couldn't go there and listen to the stuff I was hearing. There's a reason for it. Part of the reason is a large percentage of, please, pastors, you send me letters. If it's too weird, I'm not going to read it. You start off with a bunch of weird stuff, I'm not going to read it. I'm just going to trash it. Get 26,000 emails a week. I have perfected the filter. Shawn, by the way, told me about the filter. Hoo-hoo, do I love the filter. Hello to Shawn if he's listening. Probably working. We miss him always. Football game, right. Oh, that's right. That's right. There's a big football game going on. So, hello to Jill. Good to see you. So, when I would go to these places where all these pastors were, now this is not all, but this is some, it felt a lot like to me to be a majority, actually. At these pastors' conferences, they were always whining. They were always bemoaning the job of pastor, whining about how broken they are. And they would spend a lot of their time measuring each other with the world's measurements, which drove me crazy. I thought to myself, well, what's the point here? What's the point here? Now, I used to pay extra to get all the analytics for Speaker, and I'm on Blog Talk Radio too. And I would pay extra for that to see who all is listening, where are they listening from, and all of that. And you know what I've realized? That's stupid. Why am I spending this money? It doesn't matter. If you're listening to this and you want a Bible, send us a note. Send it to us through drshawngreener.com or through Facebook Messenger. You can email me at smgreener@gmail.com. I get a lot of emails. I try to get through them. I really try. But it may be a little bit before I get to that one because, they stack up. So those other ways are a good way to do it. So all that said to say this, the broken thing, let me address that. While we're at it, might as well. Can somebody tell me why so many postmodern Western emergent worship pastors they're constantly talking about how broken they are. They're constantly writing songs about how broken they are. The new thing is to repeatedly repeat redundantly over and over, I'm broken. Thank you, Lord, for fixing me. But I have a theory. I think it's all the skinny jeans they're wearing. It just they can't think. Anywho, the questions that these pastors ask at normal pastors' conferences, this is what they're talking about. So, what is your attendance running? As they drink their fancy coffees. What is your attendance running? What's your budget looking like? How many services are you running every Sunday? Do you have a yearly sabbatical included in your benefits package? So what are your benefits like? So what's your salary package? How's your band? Right? All that is the same question. How successful are you in the world's eyes? Now, I can tell you when I was paying for the Matrix, when I would see 4 million listeners, I go, I'm an old country boy from Sussex County. Good lands. Why would 4 million people listen to anything I had to say? But then I realized I'm playing into that same thing. I'm just kind of going into that little club, you know. I still look at the numbers, right? So that's why we dispatch with that. But this is how successful. All those questions are kind of beating around the bush. How successful, according to the world standards, are you? Now, when I hear these godly, right reverend men and some women pray, it sounds as though they just left Westminster Abbey after being schooled in Oxford Theological Seminary from kindergarten to postgraduate. Now, I had an Oxford hat my daughter gave me when she went to Oxford. And I was going to wear that here, but I'm so hot, I'm roasting, and I can't bear to put the hat on my head because I think I'm a near die. It's not you, it's not here. It's just my temperature, my thermonuclear temperature is out of control. So, but anyway, I was going to wear that just to drive the point home. So they leave there. Let's say they get up and they're asked to pray, or we're in a group. Sometimes they put you in little work groups. I could swear I was hearing a regal British accent when they're praying and preaching. You talk with them once they come down from the stage, they're up there praying, "Dear Lord, we beseech thee," you know, and they go on and on and on and all this stuff. They come down from the stage, and you know, they come down the side, and I might be sitting near there, getting ready to go on, and they'll, "Hey man, how are you doing? Good to see you, brother. How you making that? All right? You and yours all right? Good, good, good. Hope it did all right. Hey, how's your church doing? How's your budget?" You know, this type of thing. It's just, that's nothing against folks from Kentucky or Tennessee or wherever else. No offense to Kentucky or Tennessee or even the South and whole. I love Southern accent and I love Southern people. What I don't get is the fake regal accent. And to be clear, I just don't like fake self-impressed people, especially when they're in the pulpit. Now, I wrote Excellence Killed the Church, How Mediocrity is Destroying America. And let me say this. One time we were in Ocala, Florida. Remember this? We were in Ocala, Florida having dinner. And a famous pastor, I mean, he was famous, dude. As soon as he walked in, I was like, whoa. He was with his people. His people. When you're famous, you got people. And by the way, y'all are my people.
Where are we eating?
Yeah, where are we eating? That's the first order of business. Better have a big room because we like to eat and we need lots of space. So I wrote this book, and I happened to have a few extra on me. And I saw this fellow there, and I inscribed it to him. And I wanted to wait till they weren't, eating and in the middle of something. I went over to him. I said, "Hey, I love what you do. Thank you for doing it. Thank you for serving so long and so effectively. And I wanted to give you this book." He does this with the book. Excellence Killed the Church. Puts it down or hands it back to me and says, "I don't need this. Church isn't dead." I said, "Well, there's a lot more in there." So I developed on that experience. He just handed it back. He didn't even look at it. So I developed this saying, this book is either for you or it's about you. You choose which. So after I did a 3-year examination of the church in America, I wrote that book, and this is what my deduction was. I deduced that we are in serious trouble as a church, as the church. Why? Fraud, fake, show church. Let me tell you what, you're not going to come in here and see a bunch of fraud and fake. Not a bunch of showy business. That's just how we are. We're real people. This is the Kehala. We're discussing real things. I wrote a book. I'm about to finish it up, titled #Fraud Life. And I go very deeply into that. And I examine micro lies, not being real about who you are. Listen, I want to tell you, this is just true. This is also in the book. Lying is killing us. Micro lies, macro lies, all of it. It's all killing us. But so too is embellishing things which don't require embellishment. Let me tell you something. The Holy Scriptures of God, the Holy Bible, is one such thing. It doesn't require any embellishment at all. No fluffing up. It's very true that it is vitally important to understand the context of each passage. There is no part of Scripture that we're going to go through. Now, we're going to blast through this. It's going to be, as soon as we open this fire hose, it's going to be full on. It's important that every passage matters. And you say, "Well, I can't catch up with all that." My goodness, that's long. How many of you read the series? What's the one, the big one with J.K. Rowling? What's that one? Harry Potter. Right? That's a whole big series take up right here. It's a big old thing. right? I don't read it, but how many of you read other series? And they're big, thick books, each one, and people read them cover to cover. Say, well, I can't get into that whole thing. Well, no, this is one book, 66 books in a library. It's all contiguous, written over a period of time where they didn't have text messaging and email forwarding and all that mess there. But yet it all fits together. So it's important to understand the context. This is a little background for you. Important to understand the context of the passage of each one. Who is the author? Who wrote it? It's important to learn about the author. Wouldn't you like to know who wrote some things? Somebody writes a document. So many people over the years. It's still the number one selling book in all the world and all of history. I'm going to answer a quick question you might have. Why are there so many translations? Why are there so many different versions of the Bible? There's the ladies' Bible, the men's Bible, the men's devotional, this athletic person's Bible. I'm not saying any of this is bad. The stuck-up person's Bible. I don't know how many you have. Good-looking person's Bible. I don't know. The football Bible, the military Bible, all these different things. There's all these different things. The founder's Bible, right? With all these different things. Why do you think there's so many? Because you don't have to pay the author royalties. You don't have to pay the author. Nobody's getting paid off of it. So where was the author from? Where were they from? How'd they grow up? What was their culture? What was it like where they lived? What is it like when they're writing? What was the culture and context of those the passage is written to? I'm going to break something to you. Not every word or phrase or paragraph or even chapter of a book of the Bible, it might not be relevant to you. Why? Because it wasn't written to you. They're giving us a look up here down into something that happened in time that needed to be recorded to teach us a lesson, but it also needed to be recorded because that's what you do with things that are that important. It may not mean that you have to go dip in the river Siloam or the pool Siloam. May not mean that you have to put mud on your eyes to be healed. May not mean that. Might not mean it to you. God's got everything. He's got the whole eternal universe at his disposal. He's not limited in any way. Very important to understand that. All of these matters that I've just discussed, they matter greatly. Little things don't mean a lot. I can hear Susan saying this now. Little things mean everything. Now, the Real People Bible, and this is a summary and a commentary. It's not just a commentary. I thought about going more commentary oriented and doing a lot of that, but I said, what is it that people need more than anything else? There's plenty of great writers. I mean, I have commentaries, like this on a bookshelf. Well, they're not on a bookshelf; they're in boxes. But the point is I have them, and they're very useful. They're useful for a lot of things. There are things like, and I don't have a skin in the game on this, but I have both Word Search and Logos, both very amazing things. They're amazing. Whole libraries, $25,000 worth of books in your computer or even on your phone. I have those and I refer to them often. But I said, what does the world need more of? And I felt like the world needs a summary and commentary that's simple to read. And it's my assessment, it's my personal assessment of the book of the Bible in 250 words. I know that's hard for y'all to believe. Some of you heard me preach for 2 hours. 250 words, and it's the meat of it, the meaning of it to me, how it impacted me. Now I'm on my 37th time reading through the Bible. 37 times I've read through the Bible, and it's as though I read it only once. What the Bible is, what it isn't intended to be, what this commentary is and isn't. Look, this is not an academic commentary. It's my commentary, my impressions of the sacred books, what they mean to me. These books, they might well impact you differently. But this is how these precious and inspired words over the years have moved and changed me. Now, I'm not restrained in this summary or commentary so that you will experience my, I didn't put any handcuffs on myself. I didn't zip lock my hands behind my back. I didn't buckle myself to a chair. I said, okay, these are my unfiltered reactions to the individual books of the Bible. You will experience through reading this, and at the end of this will be available. You'll experience my real and raw emotions. Look, if I give you any piece of advice, pay attention to the format, the introduction of the books, especially to whom written, and the audience. Man, that's going to move you when you see who it is and what it is. The audience matters. The context matters. I want to do this. I mentioned my professors before at Masters International School of Divinity, mdivs.edu. My professors from the president all the way down, amazing. They have been amazing. We've had lengthy conversations on the phone. These people are just really, really awesome people. And they pressed me through a project called the Bible Mastery Project. I told you last week about that. You cannot get through your undergrad at Masters without completing a project called Bible Mastery. It's really, really, really a huge project. Some people, it takes them years to do. So if you're an adult learner seeking growth, as you probably never have experienced before, you can do no better than my alma mater, Masters International School of Divinity, or MDivs, mdivs.edu. All right. Now, we're going to start. I want to run through this really quick, really quick. And this popped into my head because I felt very strongly. I had a discussion with Jerry Fox, who is not here. I hope he's doing well. But we had a discussion about the percentage of the New Testament, the Old Testament that's in the New Testament. So Matthew, 31%, or 1,071 verses, have Old Testament references. Mark, 19%, 678 verses, Old Testament references. Luke, 28%. John, 14%. Acts, 23%. Romans, 35%. 1 Corinthians, 26%. 2 Corinthians, 22%. Galatians, 19%. Ephesians, 30%. All the way to Hebrews, 69%. 1 Peter, 69%. Hebrews and 1 Peter, pivotal books. And then you have Jude, 68% of that book. And then you have Revelation. Wow. When we get to that, that'll really be something. So I wanted to share that with you because there are going to be a lot of people that say, "Hey, man, I'm a New Testament Christian. I'm a New Covenant kind of person. I'm not the age of the law. I'm the age of grace, and I get that. And you've been schooled that way. But I'm going to tell you, nothing in the New Testament means anything without the Old Testament. So let's get started. Why not? The Old Testament. We're going to start with Genesis. Why not? Or Bereshit. The author is Moses. The date of writing is, it details from creation to the death of Joseph. Right? So all that long way, 19th century BC. There are 50 chapters, and all of mankind is to whom it's written. Hey, are you wondering where you came from? Everybody? Here's the book. Here's the book. Here's the place to find out. What was the purpose of it? To answer the pivotal question, how did it all begin? Man, if there's not ever a context that you can take a good big bite on, it's that. How did it all begin? Where did it come from? Where did I come from? Why is any of this here? How did it get here? Why is that important? Because the world is going to answer that question for you if you go to the world. But if you go to God, you're going to get the actual answer from He who wrote upon the skies, who filled the oceans, who raised the mountaintops. Why not have the right answer the first time? How did it all begin? Now here's my summary. Genesis is Hebrew for origin or generation or beginnings, Bereshit. This is the Hebrew word for Genesis. Even the title of this book speaks of beginnings, the beginnings of many things, the beginning of mankind, the beginning of sin, the beginning of death, the beginning of God's unwavering hand in our redemption. It's interesting to note that the very beginnings of this terra firma were made in and by perfection. In and by perfection. With a capital P. Man was made by a perfect God. He was made by the perfect God in what could confidently be called a perfect place. Yet sin began shortly thereafter. Genesis 6, 9 through chapter 9, 17 detail the seemingly incongruous order for Noah to build an ark and Noah's unwavering, obedient response. Hey, Noah, I want you to build an ark. Yes, I will do that. He's told to jump. He asks how high on the way up. Yes, Lord, I'm going to do that. Would you mind telling me what an ark is? Just so I can know what I'm building here. Never built a boat in his life. Didn't live near the ocean. This ark is a monstrosity. Some of you in here, have anybody been to the ark? Yeah. Amazing, right? Amazing. I'd love to see it. I want to go there. So amazing. I want to go check it out. I think it's probably a fascinating thing. There's not a negative review of the whole thing. I want to go there. Where is it again?
Inside and Out. It's phenomenal.
Inside and Out. Where is it again?
It's in, near Louisville, Kentucky.
Near Louisville, Kentucky.
About an hour.
Near Louisville, Kentucky. So when I go out to Masters, we fly into Louisville. We're scared half to death because we've never had a smooth landing there, and then getting through the city, woof. So why not just plan to go to the Ark there? Amazing. So Noah, his unwavering, obedient, he didn't question, he just did it. So Genesis, the book, gets quickly to the point in addressing the questions that circle about even the most moderate of minds. How did the earth begin? How did it begin? Genesis answers, God spoke it so. How did man get here? Genesis answers, God spoke it so. Now I have to conclude then, if I take all that in, that God has also a perfectly ordered plan for all of mankind, despite our fallen state stemming from our departure from his perfect order. Genesis speaks to the questions of God's holiness, righteousness, mercy, and grace. God doesn't shield us from the lesson of sin and its consequences. Rather, he shows us our beginnings. He shows us our failings and foibles to the point that we have to look at his Son, Yeshua, the Messiah Yeshua, the redemption King. We have the opportunity to redo our lives, excerpting the sin of our fathers. Genesis is a book of choices, and so is life. Listen, if you want to know what life is, Genesis. That's the beginning of life. If you want to know what the beginning is of us and why we're even here, Genesis, the beginning in the book of life. Now, I want to go really quickly into Exodus. These are going to be much shorter messages, by the way, for those of you listening. You only have to look at my face for a little bit longer time. Exodus is a Greek word for ek, meaning out, and hodos, meaning road. In other words, the road out. Did you ever think of that? Exodus, the road out. The author again was Moses. The date of writing was the birth of Moses, construction of the temple, 1525 through 1446 BC. That has 40 chapters, and to whom it is written, all of mankind, especially the Israelites. The purpose of the writing was to detail the birth pains of a nation, so that one of the things we were watching on the Netflix, Hebrew shows, literally shows made in Hebrew, or made in Israel, and they are in Hebrew. Well, they have subtitles, so it works on your reading a little bit. But they're excellent. Aren't they excellent? Now we're hooked on this other one. But they're really, really good. They're so well done. And so,
Let me show you that real quick.
Look at that. Hey,
That's the Ark.
there it is right there. You go. That's the Ark. That's gigantic.
It's 4.5 football fields long.
4.5 football fields long. So God said to a guy who never built a boat, go build this. And he did. 4.5 football. Golly, man. That's awesome. I don't know how the mosquitoes got here, but yeah. So I would have left that off. So this was written to detail these birth pains of a nation, so that we never forgot that listen. Birth is, I haven't given birth, but I've been there. I've delivered a few babies, and I've been there when my daughter was born. I was like, oh, ouch, And I've delivered babies, and wow, that is not an easy thing at all, right? Not easy at all. And those birth pains are not easily forgotten. So the beginnings of a nation, they're difficult, with many obstacles to best and hurdles to clear. It's no different in the case of God's chosen people, Israel. This is with one exception. Israel is a nation chosen by God himself. Listen, if you think geopolitically that you're going to write off Israel, you got another thing coming. You're all smart and high and mighty now. You're Mr. Atheist, Miss Atheist. You think you know because you're suddenly smarter than all of Scripture and all of time. Maybe organized religion has burnt you, and you said, I think I'm going to go to the other side. Because your life has been difficult, no doubt. You got another thing coming. If part of your platform is free Palestine and wipe out Israel. Israel is a nation chosen by God himself. God birthed this nation himself. He disciplined this nation, and he raised this nation of Israel. The nation of Israel began with a family of only 70 people, and today Israel, though a tiny nation measured in square miles, is great in historical stature. The book of Exodus details the reluctant leadership of the rags to royalty to rags humility of Moses. Exodus begins the account of the oppression of Israel by Egypt. Following thereafter is the childhood of Moses. His life, how it began, what it was like. Exodus, it can be reasoned, is a revelation of the calling of Moses by God himself to demand the freedom of God's people from Pharaoh's rule. Listen, God wants you to be free. From start to finish, he wants you to be free. The 40-year journey through the wilderness ended up being a series of lessons taught by God to the wandering Israelites. Listen, the lesson there is you better learn from your pleasures and you better learn from your pain, or you'll stay in the pain mode a lot longer than you were ever intended to do. And God used that time for the Israelites as they wandered about to teach lessons. The book of Exodus concludes with the establishment of Hebrew culture and law given by God. You know, Exodus feels more like an account of a high level of divine education at a tremendous cost. Now, this cost would pale in comparison to the cost of the Messiah Yeshua, the long-awaited Messiah. He would pay for my sins and he would pay for yours. He would be redemption for the world. Neither my redemption nor the Hebrew people's redemption would come cheaply. Ultimately, we need to fear God more than we fear anything itself. Anything else. God will do mighty things. Listen, if you fear him, if you respect him, if you revere him, he will do mighty things through your obedience. The song, I talk about it all the time. It's great theology. Trust and obey, for there's no other way to be happy in Jesus but to trust and obey. Just do what he tells you to do. I want to briefly discuss a mistranslation of one of the 10 Commandments. It's a huge issue, but few really want to address it. They don't want to be told. They don't want to hear it. They say, listen, this is the way I was taught. This is the way I'm going to believe. That's all there is to it. The commandment, do not take the Lord's name in vain, from Exodus 27. The third commandment reads, you shall not take the name of the Lord your God in vain, for the Lord will not hold him guiltless who takes his name in vain. So what does this mean? Literally, this means to falsify who God is and what he stands for. You have probably been told your whole life that means, oh my God. People say, oh, no, don't say that. Don't say, oh my God, that's taking the Lord's name in vain. People say, and I don't advocate, GD it. I hate that. I hate to hear it. I just want to throat punch, which is not very pastorally. People who say it, I don't like it. I don't like it. Put in your place. Let's say you loved and adored your mother, loved and adored your father, and somebody used their name in that. Boy, that would make you mad, wouldn't it? Well, it makes me that mad when I hear them use it. I don't like it. I just don't like it. But that's not what this is talking about. In the original biblical Hebrew, literally, it means do not carry the Lord's name in vain. You shall not lift up, bear, or advance, nasa, support or desire, forgive or dignify, respect or tolerate. You should not deceive or delude, deploy clever tricks. You should not beguile people, causing them to miss the way, capital W, through, or with, the name or reputation, Shem, of Yehovah, your God, Ife or Elohim, accordingly. La, with the intent to promote or affect lifeless or worthless deception or devastating or destructive falsehood. Lies which nullify our existence, leading to emptiness and nothingness. Vain promises which are deceitful, desolate, ineffectual, futile, and ruinous. For indeed, Yahweh will not forgive or leave unpunished those who relationally deceive, beguile, or delude in association with his name to promote and affect vain and ineffectual lies which lead to lifelessness and destruction. Let me give you an example. Remember, I always talk about people, pacifists will always say, God says, do not kill. Thou shalt not commit murder. But that's why we're not going to go into war. I'm going to share something with you. There's two things I was really struggling with. When I did my first doctorate, I was originally going to write on the Holocaust, exactly what happened and how it happened, and how to prevent it from happening again. Then I did a search and found out a lot of people have written that, and I wanted to be original, so I said, well, I'm not going to write on that, but I will study it, and I went to many of the concentration camps and toured them, and was literally broken to a point where in Poland, I had to have a very elderly couple come and lift me up and sit me in the chair. And then they proceeded to get me as drunk as I think I've ever been in my life. I was at their house for 3 days and said, "What is your name, by the way?" Because I didn't even get their name, but they were wonderful. They nurtured me because they saw how utterly cracked I was. They saw how utterly cracked I was. Broken, completely broken. I couldn't get off my knees when I saw the mountains of eyeglasses, when I saw the mountains of shoes, when I saw the big vats of gold teeth yanked from the mouths of Jews who they thought nothing more of than to put them in ovens and burn them, to shoot them at the edge of shallow graves, one by one by one, all because they were Jewish. I was so crushed by that when I walked out. I stood in the very spot where the officer, the SS Nazi officer, was a medical officer. He was an assessment officer. He stood, and the train came up. You got off. You went through the gate, and then you had 2 paths you could go, left or right. If he said left or right, whichever it was for that day, he assessed that you could do work and you would be of valuable until you either died at work or they killed you. The other side was, you're of no value to us, so you die today. Of course, they didn't tell him that, and they sent them, sometimes splitting mother and father, mother and child. Sometimes the mother and the father were sent to die, and the children were sent. We're going to get you cleaned up first. It's been a long journey. And then they sent them to their deaths. Well, originally I was going to study that, and I found there was so much writing on that. There were PhDs on that. So then I went to the just war theology, and I said, well, let me write on that. I'm a former military guy. I'm a veteran. I've served in different capacities. So, why not write on that? Because I hear a lot of pacifists talk about that. And I said, well, this will be a good thing. And then I looked, and there was 134 dissertations on just war theology. I said, well, let me pick something else. And that's how I picked what I did. Part of that journey exposed me to tremendous professors, amazing men and women of God, who taught me that because things have been taught to you for a long period of time doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's correct. You say, well, okay, well, that's great, but the commandment could also be, thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain, could also just be telling us, look, don't use GD. Well, I don't use that anyway. I hate it. It's awful. And I don't like anybody use it. But that's not what it's about. What it's about is don't go kill people in my name, Islam. I wrote a post this weekend. I think it was 3:30 in the morning. It took me about 5 minutes. Who knew? You never know what's going to pick up and what's not. This one's got 500 and some shares and just a few number of hours. It's crazy. We laugh about it. It's just nuts. But in that I talked about why do these Muslims signing into or swearing, because Muslims can't swear to the infidel, swearing in, why do they use Thomas Jefferson's Bible? Now, I do a whole teaching on that. It was based on the Jefferson Lies by David Barton. Phenomenal book. That's really, the Jefferson Lies is how this started. Remember that? At another church, we had a class, and we overflowed the class, and so these wonderful folks let us come here. So what I'm saying is a lot of people say, well, Thomas Jefferson, he was a secret Muslim. He was enamored by the Muslims. No, the Barbary pilots and all of this were taking booty left and right, stopping ships, holding ransom. We were paying $1 million a year back then. It was humongous money. $1 million a year. Thomas Jefferson says, why don't these people care about their very lives? Why are they the type of opponent that they are? I don't understand a people like this. So he said, what is their holy and sacred book? Someone said, it's the Quran. So he said, bring me one. And so they did. What you need to understand about Islam is when Islam takes over a land, they erect a monument to the land. And that's exactly what they did at 9/11. They said, hey, this is our greatest victory. What did they try to do? They tried to build a mosque, one of the world's grandest mosques, within sight of Ground Zero. They did that not to help people understand. They did not it wasn't a multicultural interfaith place. It was all about, we beat the infidel right here and claim the land. That's what they do with Thomas Jefferson's copy of the Quran. When they swear into that, number one, they cannot swear to an oath of the infidel. So they put their hand on the Quran and they swear on that, claiming this is our land. We are now in the Congress of the United States of America, and we will prevail. When they kill in the name of Allah, they are not killing in the name of God, because Allah and God are not one and the same. I'm going to tell you this. I know Muslims that are very devout and are amazing, wonderful people. And I know Muslims who are not devout at all, and they wouldn't know the first thing about the Quran because they haven't read it. Interestingly enough, about 94% of all Muslims, the billions of Muslims around the world, 94% of them have never even touched a Quran. They are illiterate, and there is no point in them looking at it. They listen to what their imam, their teachers teach them. Their imams teach them, and they go based on that. Why is this important? Why is it to learn accurately what Scripture says? Because you don't want to follow a false path. So all of this said to say this, that do not take the Lord's name in your vain. Don't make, we know people that attribute everything that happens in their life to God, good and bad. They make a horrible decision. Oh, the Lord has me in this for a season. And wait a second, it was a horrible decision. You made a horrible decision that anybody could look at and say, you know what, that's a horrible decision. That's why it went south for you, because you made a terrible decision. And you're unwilling, unyielding to say, I made a bad choice, and now I'm paying the consequences for that bad choice. Instead, it's much more convenient to say, the Lord has me here. No, the Lord doesn't have you here. You have you there. Don't attribute to the Lord what is your weight to bear. So, there you go. We've already gone through 2 books of the Bible in the summary. I'm trying to think of a title. That's one thing we're waiting on. The book is being edited now, and check for grammatical errors and spacing errors and all that stuff. And once it's finished, we'll package it up and get it ready and put it out there. But here we've already done 2 books, and it is not even 6:30, and we started late. Amen. That's awesome. I'm not saying that all you need to do is read this once it's out, or listen to this on Facebook Live, watch it on Facebook Live, or listen on Spreaker, or YouTube, or wherever else, DrShawnGreener.com. I'm not saying that's all you need to do. What I'm saying to you is it's very important to know you got to start somewhere. You got to start somewhere. If you believe in what we're doing and you have the means to do it, DrShawnGreener.com, go to the donate button, click on there. It comes through PayPal. It's very, very safe. We love it. Thank you for listening. Thank you to Facebook. Thank you to the folks on Spreaker and YouTube and all over else, all over the world that listen. We really, really appreciate it. God bless you and keep you.
You might want to call it, You Have to Start Somewhere.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Or she'll just